Speaking of Edward Hopper, I was 5 years old when Edward Hopper painted his last painting. Now, he didn't know about me and I didn't know about him, but I did know by age 5 that I wanted to be an artist when I grew up. And so when he was painting that painting, he was looking back on his life as an artist, and I was looking forward to my life as an artist when he was painting this painting right here. It's a painting of himself taking his last bow along with his wife, Josephine. It's his final statement, and as you can see, he's in the guise of a clown. It's titled Two Comedians. So by the time I was 5, I knew I wanted to be an artist. But I also wanted to be a clown at that age. I thought I'd grow up to be a clown. And I always thought of that as those things as two separate ambitions. But when I look at this painting, I have to wonder if there's an organic correlation between the two. To consider the issue, we could ask two questions. One, why did Edward Hopper conceive of himself this way? And two, were there other artists who had that sort of view of themselves as that sort of persona at times? And I'll answer the second question, yes, I think so. And I think first, in chronological terms, I think of Rembrandt, who, I'll start with this painting by Rembrandt. When the first time I saw this painting, I thought, when in my youth, I sort of thought he seemed a bit like a clown. I mean, the cap on his head gives his hair a quasi-bozo look to it. And you have this naturally round nose. There's no literal clown here, but he looks out at us as if to say, yeah, I know there's something a little ridiculous about me, but I've been through the ringer and I know a thing or two about life. This is a man who has come to terms with all his imperfections and follies, maybe even embraced them. This was painted in Rembrandt's last year, and maybe he sensed the end coming. But I think there were seeds of the clown in him from the very start, just in the fact that he was like trying on costumes and trying different things on, and especially all the different expressions he tried on, something a bit of the clown about that for him. And then we have Watteau, who has his famous painting of Gilles, a clown. And to quote Schneider, who wrote this book, if Gilles is not the very last painting he made, it can surely stand for it. It goes on to say, and in this work, the final isolation of the artist clown is most strongly pictured. His hands hang limply down, unable even to reach out for the last comforts of the world. The play is over. Then there's the French artist Daumier, and he drew and painted a lot of clowns, and I think he identified with them as the one on the fringes of society, the outsider, the observer, marching to the beat of a different drummer, banging on his own drum to be seen and heard. But I also think Daumier saw himself as a clown in the sense of a Don Quixote figure, the man of ideals, the visionary, the one who sees the things others can't see, who stands in the gap between life as it is and life as it should have been and still could be, the one who dreams the impossible dream, the painter of the unfulfillable. And as such, he can only be, a little ridiculous. Now, I suspect that competence, success, fame have little bearing on this sense of quixotic ridiculousness I'm talking about. And I think the great violinist Nathan Milstein was talking about that in the documentary The Art of the Violin, where he talks about ridiculousness.
Sometimes I think that's so silly for a grown-up person come out on the stage and scratch the violin. Really, I mean it. That's serious what they're saying.
That's what he says, but Nathan Milstein doesn't mean it.
Well, actually, of course he meant it. And I think whoever wrote that voiceover narrative at the end there was just uncomfortable with the idea of this genius of the violin not taking his work seriously. But that's just the point. He did take it very seriously. In another part of the documentary, he's described as always with a violin in his hand, always noodling, always adjusting, always trying to get the right position and fingering and just noodling. So he was very serious about the violin, and that's the whole point. But in the context of the real mundane world, even heavenly things look ridiculous. Just ask Joshua Bell, who stood in a New York subway playing the Bach Chaconne, a very complicated piece, and for the most part he was completely ignored. So even someone who is a world-class violinist like Joshua Bell can be a Don Quixote figure. He's no different from one of Daumier's street clowns, banging on his drum. He may as well have been serenading Dulcinea, for all the appreciation he received. As such, artists are basically non-essential personnel. But what is essential? What is the essence of life? What is the meaning of life? The artist isn't satisfied with what is conventionally considered essential. Water may be essential, but artists, metaphorically speaking, they turn water into wine. And they put salt on the bland food of life. So, why did Edward Hopper see himself, metaphorically speaking, as a clown? Well, he, like Nathan Milstein, he was a perfectionist. And he told his biographer, Lloyd Goodrich, that he considered basically all of his paintings as failures. That's what a perfectionist does. So this is the artist who's reaching for that which is beyond reach, to reach the unreachable star, so to speak, a Don Quixote. And sure enough, early on in his career, he did this little oil sketch of Don Quixote, which is a far cry from the stuff he's known for. So, as to the calling of artist as clown in my own life, I took a more literal approach than these artists I've discussed, in that I was actually interested in clowning, and not as a circus clown type, but I was sort of obsessed with silent film comedy. And in high school I was writing a novel about a silent film comedian that I made up. And then later on I produced a silent film comedy. Now, of course, I was too late. I was born in the wrong era for it, but that didn't stop me. I produced this silent film comedy that was produced and it was viewed on public access TV, which is a thing that they used to have back in the 90s. And so I made this film for this local cable station, and it was aired, and people said they saw it. And after the film was finished, one of the cast members said to me, this is a movie about your life. And I didn't realize it while I was making it, but at that point I realized, yeah, that's pretty much my life. I had originally conceived of it. It was originally sparked by a silent film comedy by Stan Laurel. Back in his days before Laurel and Hardy days, he was a door-to-door salesman. And from that, I thought, what if this young go-getter set off in all his optimism to sell the meaning of life? Now, in this case, it was philosophy books, and I don't think the meaning of life can be found there, but rather in the person of Christ. But it's the principle of the non-interest he encounters in such things. With one exception. This is an optimistic film, and that reflects who I am too. And in the end, he walks off into the sunset, happily chatting with Socrates. My real life is so much better than that. I have my lovely wife, Lisa, who adds so much meaning to my life, a lot more meaning than Socrates does. But I'm still obsessed with the essential things of life, the essential truths, the meaning of life. I wrote this novel called Amidst the Chatter, where it's an alternate universe where God is referred to as the meaning. And I paint these paintings where people are reaching for the things beyond their grasp, the unfulfillable. Or sometimes I'll paint the fulfillment of the unfulfillable. And thereby I'm clownish enough to proclaim the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So I stand on my little chair, reaching for the unreachable star, banging my little drum for anyone who will look and listen, and I intend to bang that drum till my dying breath, no matter how ridiculous it may seem to do so. That is my mission statement, my artist's manifesto. Now, you might want to consider purchasing this painting. You could own it. Or any of the other paintings I have on hand. And yes, an artist has to bang that drum too. But think of it as banging your drum, of owning something that nobody else owns, and reaching for the essence, and of setting your mind on the things that are above. And you can go to drewthurston.com to read what I wrote about this painting, and to purchase it, and to contact me. And you can subscribe to this channel, and you will get more videos like this. Thanks.